Russell slit her throat with a kitchen knife.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my channel if you're new. And if you're new and haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Also hit that blue notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I drop a video over here. I'll also leave all my information and details in the description box down below so you can check that out. And this is a reaction video of when having a crush goes wrong. I'm like, this ought to be interesting. Let's check this out.
Number 8. Scott Amadou. Michigan man Jonathan Schmitz was invited to the taping of an episode of The Jenny Jones Show on March the 6th,
that was all the way back in the day,
in which the producers told him that a secret admirer of his would be revealed.
Ooh.
When 24-year-old Schmitz walked on stage, it emerged that his secret crush, whom he'd assumed was a woman, was actually 32-year-old Scott Bernard Amadou, a male acquaintance who lived near him in Lake Orion. Also present at the taping was their mutual friend, Donna Riley, who had introduced the two men at an earlier date and who'd facilitated Schmitz's unwitting participation in the segment. Before he'd walked on
Why would she let him go on national TV doing some shit like that?
He had involving his crush. Although shaken up by the reveal, Schmitz sat next to him and the taping continued, with him claiming at one point that he definitely preferred women. 3 days later, after a night of drinking with friends, Schmitz returned to his home to find an anonymous and suggestive note on his door. He then bought a shotgun and went to Amadou's mobile home to ask if he'd written it. As later indicated by court documents, the man replied with a smile. Schmitz then retrieved the shotgun from his car and fatally shot Amadou in the chest. He subsequently called 911 and confessed to the killing, for which he was charged with second-degree murder. The ensuing trial attracted national attention, and Schmitz's legal team noted that he suffered from manic depression while also trying to use the gay panic defense. It argued that his violent actions had been a product of temporary insanity, triggered by the unreasonable violence and public humiliation he experienced. They criticized the Jenny Jones showrunners for ambushing Schmitz and failing to do a background check that would have revealed his mental health issues. Prosecutors claimed that Schmitz had murdered Amadou in cold blood to hide an alleged secret relationship they'd been having, an aspect bolstered by the testimony of one of the victim's friends. A jury ultimately found Schmitz guilty in 1996, and he was sentenced to 25 to 50 years in prison. He was paroled in 2017. Amadou's family sued the Jenny Jones Show and its parent companies in the late 1990s. And although they were initially awarded $30 million, the decision was ultimately overturned.
I feel like they mutual friend, she should have said something. Told not to do that.
21-year-old Nika Nicobin and
like,
an
period.
unnamed man had started talking on the dating site Plenty of Fish. They decided to meet in person on March the 5th of 2022. They rented a room at the Sunset Station Hotel and Casino in Henderson, near Las Vegas, Nevada. The pair began having intimate relations, during the course of which Nicobin got on top of her date and blindfolded him prior to turning off the lights. He then heard the woman reach over to the nightstand and within minutes felt a sharp pain in the side of his neck. The man cried out and pushed Nicobin off him after she'd rapidly fled.
Oh, so she crazy.
911 upon realizing that his date had stabbed him in the neck. The man's condition wasn't detailed by the authorities, but a police report did note that he wasn't transported to the hospital. Nicobin, a woman described as being of Iranian descent, was later arrested and carried out the stabbing as revenge for the killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. It led the country's expeditionary Quds Force of the Islamic
was she like a hit woman?
Guard
Was this like a
prior
hit?
to being assassinated by a U.S. drone strike in January of 2020. Nicobin was held on $60,000 bail after being charged with attempted murder, 2 counts of battery, and burglary of a business. As of April 2022, a mental competency evaluation had been ordered to determine if Nicobin was fit to stand trial. Number 6. Janice Tolton Jackson. 29-year-old Janice Tolton Jackson
She got
and
some
a friend
beautiful lips.
were at Cliff's Bar and Grill in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the early hours of January the 22nd of 2016. At some point, a man later identified as 41-year-old Charles McKinney reportedly positioned
like
himself against Tolton Jackson's backside in what was described as an intrusive manner. The woman refused his advances and pushed him away. While they were both outside, he approached her again, but was refused once more. McKinney then brandished a handgun and shot the mother of 3 in the chest. He proceeded to run away with the
I think I
weapon
heard
still
about
in his hand
this.
as Tolton Jackson's friend rushed to her side. The woman succumbed to her
that was
injuries
so
at the
sad.
scene. In the aftermath, responding officers pulled over a silver sedan driven by McKinney at high speed.
So sad.
As they approached the vehicle with their weapons drawn, the suspect overheard the dispatch transmission about the shooting and drove off. After a high-speed chase through a residential neighborhood, McKinney was taken into custody. In the ensuing murder trial, his defense would argue that he hadn't meant to shoot Tolton Jackson, whom was described as his friend. They argued that the gun had never been pointed at the woman and that it accidentally discharged when they hugged outside the bar. McKinney was ultimately sentenced to 20 to 40 years in prison.
Y'all leave y'all opinions in the comments
He
below.
admitted guilt to third-degree murder, gun violations, fleeing and eluding police, reckless endangerment, and resisting arrest. Number 5. Valerie Rosario. On February the 7th of 2022, an unidentified 24-year-old man went to an apartment in the Bronx borough of New York City to meet up with his Instagram crush, Valerie Rosario, with whom he'd been interacting on the platform for several months. She immediately tried to ply him with alcohol upon his arrival, and at about 1 a.m., 3 men barged into the apartment. They were working with 22-year-old Rosario in a plot to kidnap and rob the victim. After they'd seen him flashing money on social media, they pistol whipped the man and systematically tortured him over the course of multiple hours. The masked kidnappers placed the victim in the bathtub, where they slashed him about the body with a knife and used flammable liquid to inflict burns to his torso, back, and legs. The attackers then moved the victim to a different location and in the afternoon FaceTimed his brother to demand a ransom of $100,000. As indicated by court papers, the police tracked down one of the kidnappers named as Javier Vargas outside an address in Queens. They found him sitting in a van, armed with a knife. In the back of the vehicle, officers discovered the victim wrapped in a blanket and with tape covering his nose and mouth. The man's 24 hours of torment had left him barely breathing, but he ultimately survived. In March of 2022, Rosario was arrested on charges of kidnapping and attempted murder, to which she pleaded not guilty during her Manhattan Supreme Court arraignment. She was held without bail and due to return to court in June.
I feel like she needs to be done how he was done. Period.
Professional boxer Eddie Leal's family reported that he was in a good mood on May 30th of 2011 after he'd made plans to meet his Facebook crush, Rebecca Santiago, in person. He was enamored with her and felt they'd have a lasting connection. The 23-year-old headed out of his San Jacinto, California home, but his family members became concerned when he failed to return the following day. The promising bantamweight was subsequently found dead by the police in the driver's seat of his Toyota Corolla. It suffered multiple bullet wounds, and a homicide investigation was launched. The authorities traced the IP behind the Rebecca Santiago profile to an address about 100 yards from the murder scene. It ultimately emerged that the profile had been operated from a laptop owned by Manuel Guzman, then in his late teens. By using a photo of a model from the internet, the authorities didn't initially have enough evidence to tie him to the killing, but as the investigation progressed, they
All
found
these
that
fucking
he'd inserted
catfish.
himself in the meetup with Leal. As Santiago, he claimed that the boxer would initially be met by her brother. The police then found a witness to whom Guzman had confessed to have created the profile, which he planned to use towards robbing unsuspecting men as a way of supporting his drug habit. Roughly 11 months after Leal's slaying, Guzman was arrested and charged with murder in the first degree. The prosecutors described the incident as a thrill killing, and Guzman was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole in 2013. Number 3. Angie Zapata. Colorado transgender teenager Angie Zapata began talking to Alan Andrade on the mobile social network MocoSpace in 2008. She then decided to meet her crush, aged 31 at the time, in person. 18-year-old Zapata and Andrade spent roughly 3 days together, starting from July the 15th at the former's Greeley apartment. During that time, an intimate act had occurred, but Andrade eventually began to suspect that Zapata was transgender. He confronted her and was reportedly told, "I am all woman," but became enraged upon grabbing her body for proof. Andrade started beating Zapata with his fists and then repeatedly struck her with a fire extinguisher until she was dead. He then left in the victim's car behind the wheel of which he was eventually arrested near his residence. Incriminating evidence, including the murder weapon, was found in the vehicle, and while referencing Zapata, Andre told the arrested officers he thought he'd killed it. The confession was, however, deemed inadmissible because the police had allegedly ignored Andre's attempt to remain silent. During his ensuing trial, the jury heard jailhouse conversations of him telling a girlfriend that gay things must die, further revealing the dehumanizing regard in which he'd held the victim. Andre was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole after being found guilty of first.
Now you gonna be around his man? The fuck is you dumb?
Identity theft.
Like,
a judge.
These people really be dumb.
His sentence.
It's like, if you're not gay, why would you do something to spend the rest of your life with men?
Number 2, Marisol Benedicto. In the spring of 2011, California teen Marisol Benedicto traveled to the UK to meet David Russell, her internet crush, with whom she bonded over their shared love of heavy metal music, particularly the band Bring Me the Horizon. Shortly after the 19-year-old had arrived at a railway station in Northampton, Russell took her to a wooded area. While there, the man convinced Benedicto to wear a blindfold and hold her arms out, claiming he had a surprise for her. The teen excitedly did as asked, but moments later, Russell slit her throat with a kitchen knife. As Benedicto pulled away, he reportedly screamed at her, "Why won't you die? You've ruined my life forever." He then allegedly stabbed, headbutted her, struck her with a log, but the teenager mustered enough strength to stagger to a nearby house. The homeowner called the emergency services, and Benedicto, who was bleeding profusely from a 2-inch cut in her neck, ultimately survived the horrific encounter. Armed officers subsequently found Russell collapsed in his home from a suspected overdose, but he too recovered after receiving treatment. Investigators later learned that while awaiting Benedicto's arrival, Russell had searched for ways to kill someone with your bare hands, how to kill someone and get away with it, and best knife to kill someone online. The man, a reported sufferer of autism spectrum disorder, was jailed for 14 years after being found guilty of attempted murder.
Crazy motherfucker.
Number 1, Jamie Calloway. In late April of 2012, a woman from Montgomery County, Ohio, was arrested on a misdemeanor count of menacing by stalking. 33-year-old Jamie Calloway, easily identifiable by an all-capital letter tattoo of the word God on her forehead, had spent time in the county jail on separate occasions for charges that included obstruction, criminal damage, domestic violence,
she got pretty teeth,
and aggravated menacing.
real pretty mouth.
In March of the previous
but the bitch
year,
still look crazy.
She'd been arrested on drug possession charges. As reported by local authorities during one of her jail stints, Calloway took a liking to a female corrections officer. After her release, she began harassing the unnamed woman, allegedly in a bid to get her attention. She was accused of calling the victim's house, sending her packages and slashing her tires. As news of the arrest began circulating online, some users pointed to Calloway's YouTube channel as being potentially reflective of her unstable personality. She called herself Jamie Godhead Platinum on the platform and posted videos of herself ranting while displaying Bible verses. Her content also featured videos of ramblings on Satanology, Godology, and
see, over here, you know, I'm just a relaxed person.
Would you rather have an...
You know, we over here, you know, we just relax over here. But if you had any crazy experience or anything, leave them in the comment. I want to read some of them.